16-year-old with $10,000 in cash, a high school sophomore, dead. Shot, stabbed, thrown in a pit, and burned on Cape Cod. Allegedly, one of the three perpetrators of this crime is his half-brother. His 13-year-old half-brother. Hello all, Gadfly here. Remember during the program, please, that you are watching somebody who wears the only wind-powered hat on Cape Cod. So for those who say I'm against wind power, wrong. Before we get into the wind power segment of this episode, a couple of comments about Glenn Marshall, the ousted, disgraced former chairman of the Tribal Council for the Mashpee Wampanoag Indian Tribe. Well, little Glenn has pled guilty to 5 different counts. It comes down to the fact that Glenn was a thief and a liar. Now, no surprise to me, because I'm the one who first broke the news that he was also lying about his military record and he had a rape conviction. So remember, when you read the Cape Cod Times and they talk about how Marshall resigned in August of 2007, after the Cape Cod Times printed his unseemly past, it is true that he resigned after they printed the story. It's also true that they printed the story, pardon me, after they read mine. Since this program is destined for the web, I just wanted people out in wherever land, since the Marshall story is national, to understand where it all started. It's not a boast on my part. It's just, let's get it straight. Well, Cape Cod Times. Hey, listen. Coming down to the wire on this Cape Wind project, the 130-unit wind farm to be constructed in Nantucket Sound, if they get their permits. This has been going on now for more than 7 years. The United States Corps of Engineers did a review that took about 3 years. They issued what's called a DEIS, a Draft Environmental Impact Statement. What is wrong with the voice today? They did such a bad job that Congress passed a law, the National Environmental Protection Act, Policy Act of 2005, which transferred responsibility for project review and for permitting, essentially, to the Minerals Management Service, which is part of Department of Interior. Minerals Management is not a very well-known outfit. It's not exactly a household term, Minerals Management Service, but MMS has authority over 18 million square acres of the Outer Continental Shelf. 18 million square acres. And they contribute more revenue to the United States Treasury than any other United States government agency except the IRS. 2 years ago, they put $11 billion in the U.S. Treasury. In the last year, they've put $23 billion into our national treasury. And of course, W then just squandered that. Let's see, $23 billion. That's 2 months in Iraq. So MMS is a pretty important agency. MMS is an enormously powerful agency, kind of secretive, and it turns out not too bright. The guy, in fact, who's the head of the review of the Cape Wind application at MMS, Rodney Cluck, Ph.D., you can't make this stuff up. Follow me over into the classroom. Rodney Cluck has a doctorate in sociology from the University of Mississippi. He has a master's in rural sociology from the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville. What the hell does he know about wind power, maritime issues, weather, the economics of energy, or anything for that matter short of rural sociology? His first position with Department of Interior was as an environmental justice specialist. Probably a good term because this is an environmental crime. But there are 18 cooperating agencies in this review process. You would think that all 18 of the cooperating agencies would have had all of their work done, and that all of their reports would have been subject to review, public comment, then final drafting. Then they would have been submitted to the Minerals Management Service, and the Minerals Management Service would have brought all this information together, and then, and only then, they would have published their draft environmental impact statement. But no. We have a better idea in Herndon, Virginia at MMS. Why don't we do this? Why don't we issue the DEIS? We'll do a half-assed job at it. The Corps got away with it. No one got fired over there. And then, after the public comment is done on the DEIS, then, we'll ask the Coast Guard, what do you guys think about this? Is there going to be a radar issue with 130 440-foot tall structures in the middle of Nantucket Sound? Oh, and they're supported on steel, they're called monopiles. It's basically a big piece of pipe. Depending on the depth each one of these structures has to reach in its foundation, these tubes, these monopiles, will be 16 feet in diameter or 18 feet in diameter, bigger than a bread box, with bright white reflective paint. It's just a radar nightmare in the making. So, October 7th of this year, there was a radar conference held in Falmouth. I know because I was there. The United States Coast Guard showed up. If I seem like I'm not showing the Coast Guard a lot of respect, it's because the captain of the port of Boston, that's his official title, captain of the port, powerful guy, Captain Raymond Perry, United States Coast Guard, 25 or so years on duty, in my estimation, has destroyed the Coast Guard's credibility and has compromised the honor of the service, whose motto is Semper Paratus, always ready. Yeah. We sat in a conference all day long on October 7th. There were several supporters of Cape Wind who appeared and offered their views on why this is not a radar problem. And there were several people appearing in behalf of the Alliance to Protect Nantucket Sound, offering their views about why radar is an issue in this wind farm and why it is going to be, the wind farm is going to be a problem. So you had this group and this group facing each other, and then at tables across the front of the room, you had Captain Raymond Perry, and you had this guy, Ed LeBlanc, who I think is the bagman, the bucket carrier, the messenger from unseen forces. Next week's program, you'll hear about the unseen forces. Can you say Pete Domenici? What the hell does a guy from New Mexico know about Nantucket Sound? But there it is. The conference on October 7th was supposed to deal with the radar issues from the surface inside the wind farm and around it. And it was also, in the afternoon session, was also supposed to deal with air-sea rescue issues. Let's see, 440 feet tall, middle of the night, maybe foggy, windy, cold, rainy. Helicopters are dispatched to look for somebody who's in the water. The water is about 45 degrees. They have 90 minutes to get on station. That's the Coast Guard rule. You don't have 90 minutes in that water at 45 degrees. You don't have 90 minutes in that water at 50 degrees. But helicopters show up, and all of a sudden, they pick up the wind turbines, not the guy floating in the water, hoping to hell that they're going to save his life. So what started off as a rescue mission becomes a recovery mission. Well, let's just take our time and see if we can find the body. Thank you, United States Coast Guard. The air-sea rescue part of the conference was pushed off because so much information came to the surface in the morning that we had to spend the rest of the afternoon, the whole afternoon, in fact the whole day, just dealing with what was supposed to be the first half of the conference. Perry then revealed, you remember him, Captain Perry, he then revealed that the Coast Guard had just signed a $100,000 contract with an outfit called TSC, Technology Services Corporation in Maryland, They're allegedly a radar expert, although some real experts in the radar business tell me that they're not really that good. Well, low bid. So the Coast Guard said openly, Ray Perry said that Minerals Management Service was pressuring the Coast Guard to have this report done, completed, and submitted by the first week in December. Which would allow 7, maybe 8 weeks to do a very complicated series of radar simulations. And he was very honest about it. People said, who's pressuring you to get this done so quickly, too quickly? And he said, MMS. So what we were told was going to happen is this. The radar study would be done. There would be a period of public comment of at least 30 days. Most people like 60, and 60 is often required, but 30 days. But remember, because MMS had issued its draft impact statement already, technically the guy didn't have to offer any comment period. But he did. Radar report was going to come out. The Alliance to Protect Nantucket Sound found out that it was due to be released on Friday, the 12th of December. They had a conference call at Alliance headquarters in Hyannis with Admiral or Captain Perry and several people from the Alliance side. And Perry was asked if it was okay to tape the conversations. He said yes. Oh, he's going to live to regret that, because now there's a written transcript of everything that was said. On that Friday morning, Perry said, you will actually, 2 days before, he had told the Alliance, we're going to have the conference call Friday morning. The report's going to be available Friday, maybe Thursday night. You will have until the following Monday at noon to submit comments. Thank you, Ray. They had the phone conference Friday morning. Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock, this bozo issues a press release saying the project is doable. No public comment, period. Ooh, that's not nice. So then, on December 18th, we're shooting this on December 20th, 2 days ago, was the second conference that we had been assured would happen, hastily arranged back in Falmouth. It was scheduled to go from 9:30 to noon, but by 11 o'clock it was clearly going downhill for the Coast Guard, so Ed LeBlanc, you remember him, he's somebody's butt boy, he said, no, we're out of time. People said, whoa, wait a minute. It's a few minutes after 11, Ed, and we're supposed to be going until noon. Ed, you can call him Ed because he has no rank because he's retired from the Coast Guard. But that was it for the conference. People just swarmed over these guys. Enter this Lieutenant Commander Russ Bowman, who was not at the first meeting. He's a Coast Guard officer, and he's also he's a lawyer. Well, you can see where this is going. At the beginning of the conference 2 days ago, Lieutenant Commander Bowman laid out the specifications for the radar study and the process that would ensue. Basically, what he said was, you're screwed. The report is what it is. There's not going to be any public comment period. Take it or leave it. I find that curious because Lieutenant Commander Bowman is an officer in the United States Coast Guard. Not the Russian Coast Guard or the Iranian Coast Guard or the Iraqi Coast Guard or the Chinese Coast Guard, the United States Coast Guard. And we have this quaint tradition. Some of us are particularly fond of it. It's called public comment. It's called transparency. It's called democracy. It's called fairness. It's called, if you ain't got nothing to hide, why are you hiding? During the first conference, these two older gentlemen, who just turned out to be the most delightful people, spoke to the radar issue, and they kind of beat up on this British sea captain, this Dennis Barber character, who did his own, and he admitted it was not a scientific analysis, he did his own analysis of a similar radar report that had been done, it had been commissioned and paid for by the British Wind Energy Association at two small wind farms in England, North Hoyle and Kentish Flats. A third of Kentish Flats, by the way, has since blown up and melted the turbines, but we'll talk about that later, much later. Pardon me. One of the two guys is Eli Bruckner, PhD in engineering from a real university. Rodney. Who's Eli Bruckner? Well, he's not that well known to the general public, but in the world of radar, he's, oh my God, Eli Bruckner. 46 years with the Raytheon Corporation. How do you spell radar? How about R-A-Y-T-H-E-O-N, Raytheon? In fact, half of the 54 radars that Captain Barber had inspected in use in the wind farms in England had been designed by Raytheon. In fact, they had been designed to some extent by Eli Bruckner. And he looked at Captain Barber across the gap and he said, I don't know how you got those results. He had read Barber's report and had written his own analysis of the report and just trashed it. The guy has some intellectual horsepower. And he started off the top of his head asking the Coast Guardman who was in charge of the PowerPoint presentation to bring up different pages by number. And can I see page 27 again? Can I see page 13 again? And he'd look at them and he'd say, now, Captain Barber, how did you, The second older gentleman who spoke up is also retired from Raytheon, Dennis Picard. He is, or was, Raytheon. He was the CEO for about 10 years, something like that. And he looked at Barber and he said, Captain Barber, I'm telling you, that's not how radar works. I don't know how you got these results, but that's not how radar works. Really? Turns out that a little thing called gain on a radar set, you can tune it like you tune the color on a television. You turn down the gain and you pick up the wind farm, but you don't see some of the boats. Oops. Now, let's go back to 2 days ago. And remember our Lieutenant Commander Russ Bowman. Bowman and the radar expert the Coast Guard hired, this David Rugger from TSC, both said that the description of action, that's a term of art, that's a legal term. The description of action was so many turbines spread over so much area, 25 square miles, separated by a certain distance, a third to half a mile, and arrayed in a certain fashion. And the turbines specified were the GE Model 3.6S, a 3.6 megawatt turbine, big turbine, huge. You could park a school bus inside the nacelle, which is the big box that sits on top of the steel tube that holds the fan, the blades that go round and around. Well, GE discontinued the Model 3.6S in 2005. And I think I can prove that Jim Gordon, the CEO of Cape Wind, knew it, knows it now. As we discussed in a previous program, it's a phantom project. There are no turbines available. Oops. So I asked David Rugger, this woefully inept presenter, this mediocre second-rate so-called radar expert, if you don't have exactly that turbine, that number, that height, that sweep, that magnetic field based on that output, what would that do to your radar study? Is your radar study even valid now? And he said, well, that's what they gave us to work with. That's what the Coast Guard gave us. Well, of course, the Coast Guard got the information from MMS. Always goes back to the sociologist. So, we have a bogus radar study. I don't know if I hope you've already had a lot to drink or if you have a lot available, because after you hear this, the Coast Guard gave their contractor, their consultant, 4 scenarios. And they said, simulate these, make a computer simulation using a 15-inch radar array antenna, a 4-foot radar antenna, and then the contractor went ahead and used a 12-foot, a big bastard, a big one. In all 4 of these scenarios, so you have a ferry headed this way, and another ferry headed that way, and a fishing boat in the wind farm, you have a ferry headed this way, and a tanker barge powered by a tug headed that way, and somebody else in the wind farm, you know. In all 4 of these scenarios, there were only 3 vessels. 3 vessels. Why is that a problem? Well, because on any given day in Nantucket Sound, you could have several hundred vessels out there at a time in the high season. The Steamship Authority, who run the ferries to Nantucket from Hyannis, they had one of their skippers there, and he said, you know, people are saying that there's no commercial marine traffic in the wind farm. Let me tell you, there is. I tack in and out of there all the time in certain wind and weather conditions with the freight boat. So that lie's done. Steamship Authority does 880 trips a year between Nantucket and Hyannis. Highline Tours, who also run tour boats and ferries to Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard out of Hyannis, run over 1,000 trips a year in and out of Hyannis Inner Harbor, right past the wind farm. Add to that the fishing fleet, occasional commercial traffic such as barge oil, and thousands of recreational boaters in everything from Boston whalers to 200-foot professionally crewed yachts. This is a joke. Well, at one point, David Rugger was going through one of his things, and somebody said, excuse me, Dave, you said there's a Boston whaler. He actually said there's a Boston whaler in the wind farm, and it's going 30 knots, and you got a ferry, and will they be able to see the boat come out of the wind farm? Where's the whaler? I don't see the whaler. Dave. So Dave had his little laser pointer, and he said, well, it's right, that was a bad angle. I got to move over here. It's right, oh, there it is. No, I can't find it. What? You got a boat going 35 miles an hour in a steel forest, headed for an oncoming ferry, and you can't find it. But your radar study says there's no problem. What the hell is going on here? I'm so sick and tired of people in other parts of the country saying that, oh, the Cape Cod, it's all NIMBY. They just don't. Bullshit. This is a bad deal. This doesn't work. It's a hazard. And the United States Coast Guard has been bought and paid for by someone. Can you imagine the lawsuit when that Boston whaler smacks into a ferry? Oh, wow. Eli Bruckner and David Pickard. There they were again saying, no, that's not how radar works. I don't know how you got these results, but that's not how radar works. And between us, we have over 100 years as industry leaders in the design, manufacture, and servicing of radar. We're telling you that's not how radar works. Oh, really? So that we understand what a wind farm is, we have a little slide this is an aerial photograph taken in Danish airspace of Horns Rev. It'll come up whenever it comes up. I'm not sure people understand what we're talking about here. All right, there are 80 turbines, not 130, 80 in this shot. They're about half the size of the ones that Cape Wind is proposing to erect in Nantucket Sound. So imagine a ferry racing down either side of, say, two high-speed ferries going 30 knots each, 35 miles an hour each. It's a closing speed head-on of 70 miles an hour, and it's foggy or rainy or windy or at night or all three. A typical day on Nantucket Sound, the day in the radar simulation when they couldn't find the Boston whaler, the seas were only 3 to 5 feet. That was a simulation. The winds were only 7 to 10 knots. That's a typical day out there. Back to me. So now we have a radar report that's junk. The Coast Guard is telling the public there's nothing you can do about it. It's in, it's done, it's at MMS. You know what? We haven't even seen the full report. Nobody's really seen the critter. Few people have, but it's not widely available. Oh dear. Oh dear. You're going to see after the end credits what happens on a cold, clear day at that same wind farm of which you just saw the aerial photograph. You're going to see another aerial photograph of Horns Rev. Increase it in size by nearly double. Put it in the middle of Nantucket Sound in a piece of water that is the size of Manhattan. And kiss it goodbye. All for now. Gadfly.